Have you ever faced a setback or felt like you didn't quite fit where you thought you belonged? Today's book and the journey it takes you on will inspire you to keep going and explore new possibilities. Plus, who doesn't love a story about adorable dogs with big hearts and even bigger dreams? Now, I've got an author I'd like you to meet whose book and the message within this book will remind you to never give up. If one thing doesn't work, try something else. Stick around because you're going to learn more about the book and the writing journey this author took to create it.
Welcome to A Book Finds You podcast. This week's guest is Amy Watkins. Join us as she shares the inspiration behind her book, along with her writing process, routines, and challenges. And now, here's your host, best-selling author, Rob Chalice.
Today's guest, Amy L. Watkins, is a high school English language development teacher with 19 years of previous elementary school experience. She wanted her students to be able to see and hear themselves in books, so she started the We Love Nacho series. While the first two books feature her friend's family with some words and phrases in Spanish, Love is Golden, Lessons from a Therapy Dog is the third in the series, told from the dog's perspective. Happy to have you with us and welcome to the show, Amy.
Yes, thank you so much, Rob. I'm so happy to be here.
Good.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Well, normally I've got one question already loaded, but I actually have two because we're going to get to that dog's perspective in a minute.
Yes.
But start by telling me how the book found you.
So here's how the book found me. I have a dog named Sadie, and my first book was about Sadie, but in the book, her name is Nacho. And interestingly enough, after I self-published that book, my sister's friend who has a cat named Salsa said, "Well, where's my cat? I don't see any cats in your books. You only have a dog." I said, "You know what? I think I like that. I could do that for my second book." So the second book is Nacho Loves Salsa. So it includes the friendship of the dog and the cat. And my brother-in-law, he was taking my books to everybody he knew. He was showing everybody my books. He was so proud of them. And my sister they have two golden doodles. And I just felt like, I have a book about my Sadie, and now I included my sister's friend's cat. We have to have a book with the golden doodles. And then not only that, my sister was taking her first dog, the older one, to therapy dog training. And I just thought, you know what? That is so cute. And it just made me think about the sister-brother relationship, the big brother, the little sister. The big brother gets to go in the car and go for these training classes while little sister has to sit at home. So I thought that was a great way to bring that in. And then also, just like you said, if one thing doesn't work, try something else. I know people have gone through that in life, and I thought, you know what? Let's put a little twist on that. And little Rosie is going to try out for therapy dog classes with her friend Nacho to bring Nacho into the book also. But they end up signing up for service dog training classes, which I learned a lot about the difference between service dog training and therapy dog training, because we had therapy dogs coming to my high school for our kids. So I included that in there. And I thought it's such a powerful message that, yes, if one thing doesn't work out, try something else. So Rosie does end up becoming a therapy dog. She just didn't do well in service dog training.
Okay. So I really found a place for it. What a great message for kids, though. Even that part of the story, quite frankly, which is,
Yes,
so she found something else that was beautiful, and that's what's right for her.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
and one other thing, I want to meet this brother-in-law of yours because you got one heck of a nice brother-in-law.
He
They're not
is.
always that great.
That's right. He is one heck of a nice brother-in-law.
Now, you're coming from the dog's perspective. I've only in my lifetime, I've only seen one book that went from that angle, and I think that was Running in the Rain. Did
Okay.
you ever hear that book or
No,
read
I
that book?
haven't. Yeah.
It's from a dog's perspective.
Uh-huh.
And I found it fascinating, and I'm not an overly emotional person, but I was weeping like a baby with that book.
Aw.
So tell me sort of the nuances of trying to get it into that dog's perspective.
Yes. So Here's another little interesting piece about this. I did the Kensington Day of the Book Festival 2 years ago, and the author who was to the right of me, her name is Jackie Adrian, who I'm still close with. I was just with her the other day, and we were talking, and in between people coming up to our tables, we were talking, and we were learning so much from each other about the writing process that we both went through. And they were a little different. I went the self-publishing route, and she went with an agent. And while we were talking, and I was telling her the story of my dog, and that was my first book, We Love Nacho. And she said, "Oh, this is so funny. You know what? I'm gonna have to get this book for my kids because our dog's name is Macho." And so she said, "I'm gonna get this book and just cross out all the N's and turn them into M's."
Very cool.
And so we laughed about it. And she said, "Oh, she had this golden doodle." And I thought, you know what? That would be really cool to include her dog in this book. And so the way I did it was that Macho is the golden doodle who is the dog trainer. So in that way I could put it from the dog's perspective, whereas her dog was the one who was saying, "Hey, I'm going to teach you how to do some things." Kind of like Jackie was teaching me how to do some things too, when we had that conversation that day. And so by doing that, excuse me, I was able to have the dogs then talk to each other. So I just thought that would be interesting.
Oh, I think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. I mean, I read. By the way, I read that book,
Yeah.
Running in the Rain,
Yeah.
and then I think there was a movie about it. I couldn't bring myself to see the movie though. Well, it's a very emotional book,
I bet I'm gonna have
and
to
I,
read it
yeah,
now.
yeah, I'm outing myself. I don't normally cry. I was raised by a Marine. We were told men don't cry. However, Running in the Rain, that one made me cry because it was from a dog's perspective. And there's something
Yes.
so pure about that.
Hmm.
So I'm assuming that that kind of translated into your words. And I just think it's beautiful. I think that's so cool. You mentioned Kensington Book Festival. I need to learn more about that. What is that about?
Yes, so that is coming up on April 27th. So it'll be very soon. So, Kensington Row Bookshop is a bookstore that I found because I was looking for a place that would take local author books. So I happened upon them, and it's a beautiful bookstore that you walk into, and everybody just says it's so magical. You just have such a cozy feeling when you walk into the bookshop. And so they were doing this Day of the Book Festival. And so I did it the first year. And like I said, I met Jackie, I met so many other wonderful authors, and not only wonderful authors, but just to have the opportunity to meet with your readers. It's the best thing. And that's what I love about doing podcasts like this too, because it gives the readers and the listeners a chance to hear about your book, why you wrote it, how you wrote it,
Right.
to tell a little bit about it. And I think that we as authors learn so much from our readers also. So it was such an amazing experience for me. I did it again last year. And then this year, we're doing something a little different. We're going to have a tent that has all of the, well, not all of, but a lot of the Kensington Row Bookshop local authors. So we have a program that we do once a month that I host also. And we're going to have 18 authors all in this one tent. So people can come, and we'll have three authors to a table. There will be six tables, and you can just go around from author to author to author.
That's
So,
great.
yeah,
That
and
sounds
there's so
great.
much more. I mean, there's face
Mhm.
painting, there's music, there's a little theater, there's food trucks. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk to people who go to that. I've got news for you. I know it probably seems a little bit awkward at times to go up to an author who's sitting at a table, but I'm going to tell you, it is the nicest thing you can do to go
Yes.
up and just say hi. We are, as authors, many authors are introverts. People don't realize that.
Mhm.
They have a lot to say, but it's through the keyboard a little bit.
Right.
So never, never, never feel uncomfortable about going up to an author or something like that. They're dying for you to come up and ask any question you want, and it makes their day too. So go
Absolutely.
ahead and jump on that opportunity. I did one of those at University of Maryland. I'm a Maryland alum, and they
Me
did
too.
something interesting because they knew people were going to just sort of be a little bit nervous about talking to the authors, but they said,
Mhm.
well, we're going to give every author a bunch of stickers. And if you get up and have a conversation, they're going to give you a sticker. And if you collect enough stickers, we're going to give you this over here. And so we had a
I
lot
love
of people coming up and asking questions. The
that.
stickers is what did it. So don't know if it's too late for the sticker idea, but next year,
Yes,
some
I love that.
stickers.
I
If you
love
talk
that.
to all the authors, they're going to give you two books and a cup of coffee, but something.
Right.
Anyway, but do go up to those authors. They'll love to talk to you. Now, let me ask you, if I went up to you, particularly with this idea, I love the idea, and yet I know that now we'll start talking to people who are thinking about writing books like this.
Mhm.
How do you know when an idea is worth pursuing? Because I get these ideas like that, and I go, ooh, and I wake up in the morning, I go, maybe that's too much. How do you know when it's worth sticking with?
So my message is to just do it, kind of like
Mhm.
Nike, just do it. But I think when you know that it's worth it is if you know you have a message that you want to reach people. Because I think a lot of people have great ideas for books, but think about who your audience is, would be my advice. And really, what is your message? Because after people write the books, that's when we get into the marketing piece of it. And there's so many people who write books and they say, I have this great book, but now it's just sitting here.
Yeah.
Okay, so how are you marketing it? What are you doing with it? Who are the people you're trying to reach? So when you have those great ideas, think about your message. What do you want from that? I think that is really the best advice
Yeah, I agree
for
with you.
that,
And you know,
you know.
the advice I used to give, it's interesting, was if you can't shake it, if it won't leave you alone. But I
Mm.
have to tell you something. I'm going to give you disclose. I've had an idea for about 10 years that I can't shake. And it's a big idea and it's really great. And what it's done is it's thrown me into sort of a 10-year, I wouldn't say a tailspin, but 10-year just sort of idea I can't shake. And I'm realizing right now that there are times where you just have to say goodbye to ideas, even if you can't shake it. Uh, you know what? I'll even tell you what the idea with 2
Yeah, what
seconds.
is it?
It's a book I always wanted to call Instinct versus Logic. Okay. How
Okay.
many times we do things that are very instinctive, but they're
Uh-huh.
illogical. And in business, for instance, buy low and sell high as a stock. It's very logical. No one does it because the instinct is the complete opposite. So
Okay.
now that I've told you that, you'll find yourself running into that 5 or 6 times for the rest of the day. And therein
Uh-huh.
lies the problem. I can't contain it. Sometimes when you have an idea, I mean, where does that go in the bookstore? I don't know, 10 different areas. I can't contain it. And that's okay. I'm going to let it go because I've
That
got
sounds
another
amazing,
idea.
though. Why are you
Yeah.
letting it go?
I'm going to let it go because it's been with me 10 years. I've got 6 different outlines. And
Pick one and go with it.
it's so thank you, folks. We'll be right back with you. But I can't go with it. I'm working. All right, we'll talk afterwards. Maybe either if you can't
You need
shake
to
it,
go with
get
it. You
Amy to
need to
give me a
go with
kick in the
it.
tail. That's the other part. Okay, I'll talk to you about this off there.
Okay.
I'm listening to you though, and I'm thinking I always had you can't shake it. There's got to be a reason, but I'm struggling with this, but
Do
maybe I just
it.
need to talk to you a little bit
Do
more.
it.
And
Yes.
maybe we'll do an episode, you and me, about what
Yes.
happens when you can't shake it. Um,
Right.
so, all right, but
When
let's
you
get.
can't shake it, you have to just do it.
I think you're right. It's not,
Yes.
yeah. I've written 7 books. It's not like I don't take them across the finish line. I can't get this one off the starting line, but we'll see. All right, back to you. I can't believe it. What? I thought you go, Rob. That's okay. Let it go. Not you.
Yeah.
Go in there and fight. Let's talk about your writing routine a little
Mhm.
bit. Everybody has their own approach. What about you? Are you daily writer? Do you work on a word count weekly? What's your objective?
It's so interesting because that you asked that because I've heard so many people's, different routines, what they do with the word count, sitting in a room full of other people who are writing, almost like going to the gym, and if other people are working out, you're going to work out too, kind of a thing. I've heard so many different things, and I've heard some people say what I will say to you, but not exactly this. But I get my ideas when I'm walking with my dog.
Hmm.
Which I think is when, that first book spun out. I think when I'm in quiet times where there's not necessarily a lot going on around me, it's just quiet times where I'm kind of in my thoughts and I'm thinking about these things. And I grab my phone and I go to the notes section and I just start typing these notes. And that's where it gets started. That's kind of like the birth of the book, where I'm getting my notes down. And then I'm like, all right, I'm thinking about characters, I'm thinking about things that could happen in the book. And it kind of just starts spinning that way. And then from there, I start thinking about, okay, well, what are the characters going to say? Where are they going to be? What is the problem going to be? Because we have to think about the problem in the book. How's the problem going to get resolved? And so it really spins from those first little notes that I put into my phone. And then it just goes from there. Because my phone is always with me, so I can easily jot my notes down in there.
Well, let me ask you this though. Okay, it sounds like, which I like, is into that phone while you're walking with the dog. You're almost outlining this book. You're you're
Yes.
you're
Yep.
trying to get a big picture,
Yep.
and we have to be true to what you said, and I believe it, which is just because it isn't the way we do it doesn't make it wrong.
Right.
However, I don't know how anybody writes a book without outlining it in some way, shape, or form. But all right, to each their own. So I'm not going to argue with that one. I'm endorsing it. But what about actually writing while you're walking? And I ask you that because I would think, well, what kind of nonsense is that? But one of our authors, who's a very prolific and successful author, dictates into that phone.
Yep.
Well, once that outline's done, she
Yep.
begins dictating chapters and then cleaning up when they get back.
Yep.
Have you ever tried that?
I've done a little bit of that.
Hmm.
Yes, I've done a little bit of that with the dictating into the phone. I mostly do the jot the notes down in the phone, and then it's when I come home and then I start typing things out
Yeah.
is mostly how I do it.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's, by the way, that's my way too. All I need is a bullet, 2 or 3 words.
Yep.
And so I don't lose that the sequence, I don't lose that idea. And then I want to sit and really work with it. And to me, just so you know, and everybody's outline's different, but that's what my outlines typically look like. It's just for each chapter, it's just a page, and each page may have 15, 18 bullets on it, but
Right.
it's almost reminders of a quote, a story, of this. And then I have to be someplace quiet, and
Yeah.
just do it.
And I have to have music playing.
Yeah, you're a music fan. Ah.
Yeah, I have to have music on. And what's interesting about this with the children's book, with when we talk about word count,
Hmm.
so, and I forget, I'll have to go back and look at it now because when I first started writing, I watched a webinar and now I'm going to forget her name, but she was talking about specifically for children's books, how many pages it should be, how many words it should be. So it shouldn't be more than 32 pages. It's kind of like the sweet spot. I forget the word count, but I did really good on that with my first book. I tried to stick to those specific lines of not making it more than 32 pages, keeping the word count down. The second book, I was just so excited and I was just sprawling, sprawling, sprawling with the words. And I wanted to get it out before May because I was going to do the Gaithersburg Book Festival. So I used that as kind of a deadline. Okay, I got to get it done by then. And I just sprawled that one out. So my second book, I know is way over the page limit. It's like 48 pages. I also wanted it to be kind of a step up because the first one, I wanted it to be at a different reading level. The second one, I wanted it to be at a little bit of a higher reading level. So I did that on purpose a little bit, but there are some guidelines that you should, try to adhere to a little bit when you're doing children's books. But one thing that was really fun about it was my illustrator lives in India. And so I sent her the manuscript. And then that's interesting because when you talk about outlines, that looks very different when you send your manuscript to the illustrator. Because for her, I had to really give her the layout of this is where the illustration is going to be, this is where the words are going to be, these are the illustrations that I want on this page. And then even telling her as you go through the book, the kids' clothes are going to need to change because now this is the next day or this is the next week.
Right.
And it was interesting because sometimes she'd send me the illustrations to check and say, "Oh, how's this?" And I'd say, "It's great, but he still has on those same clothes." And we're 3 days later, please
Right.
change his clothes.
Right. That's
So,
hysterical. My
yeah.
wife is a collage artist and she puts clothes
Um,
on people. And sometimes she'll show something to be commissioned, they'll go, "Oh no, it's the fall." So, but the people stay. This is like when we were kids. She just pulls the paper clothes on, and puts fall clothes on. The dog's track clothes all over the floor. I mean, is this a sweater? It's all kinds of weird stuff. Interesting on the word count though. Is there? I've got the page count. I've never heard that before. Roughly 32 pages.
Yeah.
Is there a rough word count?
There is a rough word count, and I should have looked at that before we talked today because now I forget what it is. But there is definitely a rough word count also. And I mean, for children's books, I mean, it's really the fewer the words is better.
Right.
And it's really difficult because you want to say so much. And to get it down to fewer, I mean, I had to keep cutting and cutting and cutting from the first book.
Yeah.
And it was hard.
Yeah.
And you want to tell a lot through your illustrations also, but to get the meaning in such fewer words, it is really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And then another thing too, in children's books, it's good when you have something that repeats 3 times. That's kind of a good sweet spot for learning things. And so I try to be really careful about that in my first book and having things kind of happen in threes or say things in threes. That's something else that's really good for
Yeah.
kids. Yeah.
Actually, it's not just for kids. As a guy who delivers seminars for a living, we refer to it, professional speakers, we call it callbacks, where we
Oh,
will
okay.
call something back and bring it
Yeah.
back again and bring it back again. That is if we want it to stick.
Yes.
Because there's the rule of emphasize everything, emphasize nothing. So you kind of have to figure out what it is you want to stick, and it's going to require repetition to
Yes,
make
yes.
that work.
And yes, and you know what, saying that is so interesting because I've taken my book to a few elementary schools. It's kind of difficult because I have to take time from work to be able to do these things. But when I have, it's fun because when I'm reading the book to the kids, by the time I get to the third time, now they're reading it for me,
Mm,
because they already know what I'm going to say by the time I get to that third one.
yeah,
So that's the fun part is hearing them read that.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Now, you drilled me on me abandoning a project. Have you ever abandoned a project before? And I'm
Not
talking about a
yet.
writing project. Yeah.
Not yet. I have
Yes.
one. Not yet. Not yet. And I say that because I've had a project in mind that I'm going to say I haven't abandoned it yet. It's sitting there, it's waiting. What happened was I self-published my first book, and then I quickly did the second book. And then the third one I had a couple different ideas on. And so I took one route on the third one, and it was kind of a mix of another idea I had. So that other idea is still dangling there, and it's been waiting on me. But what happened was, in the process of writing the second book, I was working at an elementary school where our media specialist said, Amy, this is great. Would you want me to translate this for you? And I said, sure, that would be amazing. I would love that. So she did. She translated my first and second book into bilingual versions. And I was telling you before we talked that this is bilingual, multilingual learner advocacy month. Okay. So, I really wanted to highlight those two books. But so my first book and my second book, she turned into bilingual versions for me. And I said, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Now I need to find the time to format these books. So when I say that project has kind of been on hold and I haven't abandoned it yet,
Okay.
but when she translated those first two books for me, then I needed to find the time to format them. So I went through that, and my love was poured into those two books to get them formatted. And now I have those in the bilingual versions, which I love, love, love. So that other one is still dangling, but I will get to it. So I'm not
Yeah.
saying,
All right.
yeah,
Well, you better. You better. How dare you? Okay.
yeah.
And I know you're self-published. Now, really the only thing people don't realize is the only thing you really give up, it depends on what services you're using, is the marketing side of it a little. You kind of
Yes.
have to do that yourself. Here's a dirty little secret if no one's heard it before from a guy who's conventionally published. They do very little to market your books. Authors always have to market their books.
Yeah.
Always, always. Matter of fact, most of the, if you go conventional and you want to go to a publisher, the elephant in the room is who's going to answer first, how you plan on helping that publisher market the book. And if you don't get to it at some point, you can, it doesn't matter who you are. The answer is going to be no. It's the elephant in the room. So let's talk about marketing for a second.
Right.
How do you market or promote the books that you've got?
Yeah, so it's very interesting that you say that. So, from doing the Kensington Day of the Book Festival, and I was telling you, I was talking with some of the other local authors. Well, the bookstore owner, Kensington Row Bookshop, Ellie is the bookstore owner there. And, she noticed that there was a lot of conversation going on among the authors. And she said, I really want to do more for the local authors. I'm trying to figure out what can I do. And she said, I really thought about doing a local author group. Is that something that you would be interested in? Because I would really like for somebody to run that. And I said, I would absolutely love to do that because that's something we couldn't get enough of talking to each other and hearing our journeys.
Right, right.
So we started that local author program, and we're a year and a little bit in now. We usually have about 10 authors who come, so it's a small group. We meet once a month. And this is where we always end up talking is the marketing piece of it. What are you doing? How are you marketing? How do you get your books out there? And with that, with us talking about it so much, one of the things that I started doing was putting my book in the little free libraries because I thought that way, it's out in the neighborhood. People are going out on walks. They're going to see it. They're going to grab it. They're going to read it. And they're going to say, I want this. I need to have it at home. So that was one thing that I started doing for myself. And then now we have this podcast. So I started that for our local authors. It's called Rock, Paper, Write. And I thought, guys, we're all trying to market our books. This would be a great way to do it because I used to go to Busboys and Poets all the time, and I would go there to hear authors talk about their books. And once I heard them, I had to have it. I wanted that book. And I said, I think by doing a podcast and people hearing your story, our stories, that's going to be great advertisement. And I really think it is a great way to advertise by getting out there and talking about it. And so when you say, a lot of authors can be introverts, you have to talk about it. You have to get out there and talk about it because that's what makes people want to buy the books.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A fun fact, I teach two programs at the Writer Center. One
Oh, yeah.
is book marketing on a budget.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And the other is how to find and deliver on podcasts for authors, just authors. And
Okay.
both programs don't sell out very often. I mean,
Really?
there are no other programs like it. And I'm not promoting it right. I'm just saying it blows my mind that authors don't realize that you're only half done when that book comes out.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
Right. It used to be, talk about marketing, used to be
Yeah.
called book marketing, marketing your book. No one showed up for it. Then I changed it to book marketing on a budget. Okay. Now we started getting a nice little crowd. But I would say every other time I put it up there, we don't have enough to field a class. I pretty much do it just because I want to help authors. We don't get wealthy teaching at the Writers Center. But I'm shocked at how many authors, I know you don't love marketing the book. But first of all, it's a responsibility. I look at my books, and I think you do, listening to you, almost as your children. Uh,
Yes.
we have a responsibility to our children, these books, to not say, well, I'm tired or, I'm
Yeah.
introverted. We got to fight for those books.
Yeah.
And I think podcasting, as you just said, is a great way. There's so many other very low budget moves that you
Yeah.
can do to
Yeah.
promote those books. But please don't run out of gas when
Right.
writing the book.
Right.
We're
That's
halfway
only the
home.
beginning. Yeah.
Yes. All
Yeah, that's
right.
only the
Coming down
beginning.
the home stretch with you. We've got people that are listening. I know once you join the writers club of an author, people come up to you and say, I've always dreamt of writing a book. It just comes with being an author. It's a very sweet conversation, quite
Mhm.
frankly.
Mhm.
But if somebody's listening right now thinking, I want to do that. I wish I could do that. There's so many pieces of advice we could land on, but what
Yeah.
would be one or two pieces of advice you'd offer up for them?
Yes, so it's interesting because one of my friends just came to me and said that to me. And she said, I'm only telling you, I haven't told anybody else, and I'm not going to say her name. It's because writing is very personal, and depending on what you're writing about, but to me, it is, it's very personal. And what I tell everybody is, for one, like I said before, just do it. Just do it. This is something you can do. And then the other advice that I give is to go online and look at some information because that's how I got started doing it. A friend of mine, thank you to him, told me, you're a teacher, you can do this, you know. And then he told me that his cousin did it. And he shared with me something that his cousin did that was just a 30-second video showing how he published his book. And I watched it over and over and over and over again, that little 30-second clip. And I said, wait a minute. Okay, I know I can do this. And I went and I looked up some information online. And I will tell people, Heather Cash Art is absolutely amazing. If you have never stumbled upon her, check her out. She has a lot of videos. She taught me how to format the books. And then April Cox is another one who has a lot of great information about doing the copywriting, buying the ISBNs. All the information is out there. You just have to find it.
Good.
So you have the ideas, now figure out how to get it out there.
Good. And I
Yeah.
will tell you that as a conventional guy, now I didn't, I thought I knew everything about publishing, but I decided as what we in business, we create something called a lead magnet, which is,
Mm,
when you go to a website and it goes, follow me and you can have my free book. Well, you
right.
can't do that when you have a conventionally published book. Well, you could, but you're going to be buying a lot of books for people. So
Right.
I just went through that process. And I actually enjoyed it, buying the ISBN number,
Yep.
finding somebody who would format, create. I was on Canva for about an hour or two, and I thought, boy, if I spend another 8 hours on this, I'll be done and really create a crappy cover for this book. I got to find somebody to do this. But there
Right.
are people out there, they're very reasonable. I went to Upwork and found somebody, but they're out there.
Right.
And it was very rewarding. And I'll say one thing about having your own book. I can do anything I want. If
Whatever
I
you
feel
want.
like giving it to somebody, I can. So I'm kind of liking this. It took me a while to join the party. I'm there. Can I also give, I don't normally, I asked you for a piece of advice. I want to offer a piece of advice because it was
Yes.
something that you said and you went through it quickly. You didn't touch on it because it wasn't part of your answer. But
Mhm.
the instinct versus logic of people saying, I've always dreamt of it, but I don't want to tell anybody. And
Mhm.
I say, that's instinctive, completely illogical, because logic would state that what you mean you don't want to tell anybody, because if you do, you're probably going to have to write the book. And
Exactly.
so,
Yes.
why are we keeping it a secret? I would wear a
Right.
button on my chest that said, Ask me about my book. Not only
Yes.
will it get you going on the book, but you'd be shocked in the CVS line, in the Safeway line, if you wear that button. How many people go, Oh, you're writing a book? Yeah, it's just about boxcars or whatever.
Mhm.
How many people go, Oh, my uncle used to build them. Did you know that in the 40s thing? And you'll learn stuff or they'll ask you
Yep.
questions. Don't keep it a secret. I know
Yes.
that might mean you'll have to write a book, but I thought that's why we got into the conversation. So tell people it's okay. Love
Yeah.
is golden. Lessons from a therapy dog and more with our author here. Been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I also want to remind people about Rock Paper Write podcast. I always want to support other podcasts, particularly if they're talking to authors. So
Yes.
let's get on these podcasts and remember, this is how we promote. This is how we connect, network. It's all there for us. But Amy, really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks so much for being on the show.
I really enjoyed it too. And I wanted to give a shout out to Maryland Writers Association also. Thank you for all you do there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yes, we will, because I tell you, I took it to the, yeah, I'm going to mention it. I took it to the Writers Center. They went, who would want that? Writers? I don't know. And
Writers.
when I mentioned it to Maryland Writers Association, they went, oh, tomorrow. Let's get it going. And they really jumped in with both feet, and I'm grateful. So good for the MWA. They showed me
Yes.
something there, and I immediately became a member. So yeah, good that we give them a shout out too.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks so much for being on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been so nice.
Good. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's guest author, we'd love you to rate, review, and share this episode with others. If you'd like more information on today's guest or the Maryland Writers Association, please visit our website at marylandwriters.org. You can also hear a brief history of the Maryland Writers Association by listening to episode 0.